started here. Call the meeting to order. Roll call. Mr. Kaminsky.
Present.
Mr. Reinert.
Here.
Mr. Scala. Mr. Bergen.
Here.
Mr. Sager is absent this month. Mr. Kunkel is online. Do I have a motion to allow Mr. Kunkel, Mr. Kaminsky, Mr. Reiner seconds?
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Mr. Kunkel. Matt?
Good morning.
All right, so let's move down to minutes approval.
I'll move.
Moved by Scala, second by Kaminsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public comment. Do you have any public comment this morning?
Yeah, we got one person. Ray?
Yeah, I'm just here to talk about the bridge. I can wait till you get to it. It's number 7 on your list.
I tell you what, why don't you come up and introduce yourself
Hi, my name is Ray Sawdell. I moved to the area. We bought a farm out in Hebert, 28-acre farm just north of Hoops. And the Vanderkarr bridge, and I am retired, so I don't have any equipment or anything. I'm going over the bridge, but I read the report on the bridge, and just talking to Zeke, Zeke says I'm wrong. I said the structure was only 6 feet long. So that's why I'm here. Because if it's only a 6-foot bridge, why is there a tonnage on the bridge and not an axle weight limit on the bridge? So does anybody know what the structure length is on the bridge?
It's more than 6 feet.
Do you have documents or anything?
It's about 60 feet.
Yeah.
The structure itself?
Yes.
And I read the report wrong. Do you have any documents on that?
Yes.
Maybe you can email it to me? Or do you have it with you?
We'll contact you.
You did leave your email. We can.
I did not leave my
Oh.
email.
Here,
I'll put it
I'll.
on there now.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to stay and listen to the rest of it. But yeah, if you could just email that to me.
Welcome to Hebert.
Thank you. We love it out here. Nice and peaceful. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any member comments?
No.
All right, seeing no member comments, let's move down to routine consent agenda. Is there any items that members would like to pull? Matt, how about you?
I'm good.
Okay, seeing none.
Make a motion to approve routine consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.5.
Ms. Van Bergen seconds,
Thank you, sir.
and we'll proceed to roll call. Mr. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Scala?
Yes.
Ms. Van Bergen?
Yes.
Mr. Kunkel?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. All right, motion. New business, staff recognition.
Mr. Creasy, why don't you bring Aiden forward, introduce yourself to committee members and those tuning into this meeting.
Hi, good morning. I'm Austin Creasy, the vegetation crew supervisor here at the DOT. With me today, I have Aiden Banky. Aiden is the newest member of the vegetation crew, started with us on Monday. Aiden is a 2022 graduate of Zion Benton Township High School. Aiden comes to us from Beach Park Public Works and currently resides in Richmond, Illinois with his parents and 4 siblings. In his spare time, Aiden enjoys fishing and riding his motorcycle, and he also enjoys spending time relaxing, camping with his friends and family. So with that, please join me in welcoming Aiden to the DOT.
Anything you want to say? No.
What kind of motorcycle?
I have a Suzuki 600.
We forgive you.
All
right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
You seem like a nice guy.
Welcome aboard.
Okay, moving down to old business. The first item, 7.1, Vanderkarr Road Bridge discussion, and we have Jeremy. Can you come up and talk about that a little bit? Give us a little update.
On the Vanderkarr Bridge?
Yes.
Good morning, Jeremy Stell, construction manager.
Just an update on the bridge. So we were notified by IDOT late December about a needing to post the bridge and do a lane modification. And that was due to a combination of a beam needing full live load traffic taken off of it and a deteriorating pile on the west abutment. And so on February 5th, we with our traffic department, our traffic manager and our sign shop load posted the bridge to the required tonnage of 18 tons, single axle, 22 tons, 3 or more axles, per IDOT bridge office. And 2 days later, on February 7th, we installed the delineators to take the traffic off of beam 6, which is a near center beam. So that has been in place. Since then, we're looking at options for repair. Been working with our bridge inspection consultant, Will Hoffman and Associates, to come up with a repair option. And as of the most recent update, as of yesterday, we're looking at around $230,000 estimate to repair not only the beam that's in question that the traffic's taken off of, but 2 additional beams that could cause further deterioration in the future that may result in what's going on right now. Encapsulating the exposed pile, which is the pile that's causing the load posting right now, surrounding it with concrete, addressing some local scour that's occurring at the west abutment. So it's just material that's eroding away from the concrete structure. Removing the complete asphalt wearing surface from the bridge, investigating that there's nothing else going on, and then sealing it with a waterproof membrane to protect water from penetrating in the future. And so all of that is where we're at with the estimate right now. And depending on the direction, you know, we could take maybe a month or so to come up with a set of plans and a proposal, and then going through the process of committees and go from there.
So if you come up with a plan, how long will that process take before we could have that bridge repaired?
If I had to guess, since we just started the estimate process, I would say a few weeks to a month to have a good set of plans and a proposal document. Then we would schedule a bid opening, and from that point through county board, let's just say another 3 months. And then just give some contingency of a month before a contractor would want to start. So let's say half a year or less, we could probably have boots on the ground to start construction on that. And I would anticipate this kind of work would take a few weeks or less once it's started.
We do.
Under a full closure.
You do need IDOT. IDOT has to approve these before they go to a letting.
Yes.
And there's a month and a half to 2 months or more to procure the beams and bring them back on site. The contractor has to make the beams and order them and bring them on. So late summer, fall, this bridge could be done.
Okay. Any other committee members, any comments? Questions? Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
Oh, Mike?
so, what's the road commissioner's personal opinion about the situation?
Oh, he's here today.
Well, I'll recognize Zeke if he wants to talk about it.
My personal opinion was to shut the bridge down completely and then fix it when you can get to it. I come to somewhat of an agreement to wait, plug through these last 6 weeks of winter, and then if it's not fixed by fall, then we want the road closed, we want the bridge closed for next winter. Because we don't have the equipment or the money to buy the equipment to take care of that small, to get across there, that small lane and the weight restrictions.
Did I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I would just like to add to that, a lot of the mutual aid that does come to the area goes across that road. So, I mean, if it really comes down to possible, so we can keep it open and not have to detour any of the mutual aid that Hebron often gets, from Richmond and, McHenry.
My concern is it's a safety concern on
Yeah.
that bridge, like we had some of those other, the fire chief was here
Yeah.
last month about the safety of it.
One of the.
I didn't realize that big propane tank fire was right around the corner
Yeah.
from there.
Yep.
So
And
it's
that
an
was-
example of why you need to get to the fire real quick.
Yeah.
That's what my concern is, the safety. So I would want to see that road closed myself because of the traffic. I've driven through there quite a bit.
It's one of the higher traffic roads, and you take the chance of wrecking all the other roads around it if you have to detour. But really and truly, the mutual aid is probably the biggest concern in getting to, any situation at a farm, and you're having to detour, 5 miles, because it's not like you're going around the block, it's miles added on.
The cost to close that road would be.
Well,
approximately,
if it was done in-house, it would be approximately $30,000 would be my guess. Where you're detouring is obviously subject to IDOT and DOT and the township's decision. But yeah, that would be approximately.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody?
So are we supposed to be providing direction to staff, or where are we going?
He's just giving us an update, right?
Well, he's giving us an update, but what do you guys think? I prefer that we would like, I'll give my thought, is that, and then you guys can say if you agree or disagree. My thought is that we move forward with this. Because here you have a bridge, now that you have 2 other suspected beams, at some point it's gonna close, and we're not even in the program yet. It's going to close for 5 to 7 years before we get funding to replace that kind of bridge. When we can possibly get the job done for $230,000. And that's my position on it. We should, like those other bridges, because of safety, move forward with repairing those other two that we have replaced or fixed. And my other side of that is when you fix this bridge as a repair, this bridge may not be in the system for another 20 years as have to be replaced. And for $230,000 instead of $2.5 million. So that's my position on it. So, what's your thoughts?
Well, if you defer, it's just gonna cost more money. I mean, anything you push down the road is gonna come back at you. And, if you defer it, it might be a year when you have 3 of them to fix, I don't like pushing things down the road. Prefer. No pun intended.
That's all quiet.
So when you're saying that there's potentially 2 other beams, is that because of IDOT's inspection, or is that because you guys went out there with IDOT's information and then did further research on it?
So our consultant does the inspection, and then bridges like this that are rated low enough, IDOT does a follow-up inspection. So both our consultant and IDOT already had these 2 other beams noted.
Okay.
But because we're thinking ahead of future bridge, then you're like, what will these beams potentially do in the future? And our guys say, well, they're gonna eventually do what this other beam's doing. So the planning part of it is just the initiative we've taken because of what's going on right now.
Okay.
And my understanding is if you tear that up without planning for those other beams, and you get in there, you say all those other beams, now you're gonna delay on getting those other 2 beams to replace them.
Right.
There's another 6, 8 weeks or whatever, right?
Correct. Exactly.
So you're gonna replace it regardless if you do it this way?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to come down the same situation again a couple of years from now, potentially. Yeah. If you're gonna fix it, you're gonna take care of it all for, like you said, for longevity purposes.
Right, fix it, right.
Yeah.
And there's not a way to expedite the beam situation in the sense that we can't pre-order the beams, like the county can't pre-order the beams?
Correct. In fact, this is a pretty quick amount of time. We have talked to the beam fabricators already ahead of this, just to see what kind of lead time we would have compared to Johnsburg Road Bridge, which was several months.
Right.
And we're getting that it's 6 to 8 weeks, which is actually, that's as quick as you're gonna get in this day and age anyway, so.
Okay.
Once you get your approval on your quote, can that order be put into, for the beams right away? While the rest of the process plays out to get them being manufactured like you did for the Johnsburg Bridge?
We'll usually give a heads up to the beam manufacturer right around the county board approval, but other than that, it's the risk that the contractor's willing to take before a signed contract gets approved. Otherwise, county board would be your earliest start date that you want to have these guys start moving forward with them.
Have you ever used emergency procurement? Save a couple days.
Want me to catch up at least that once?
It was all cool until he was in coffee.
So what,
Protein, yeah, right.
where is the 230 approximate $1,000 coming from?
It's gonna be a majority from the beam removal and beam install.
Oh, no, I mean,
Oh, the fund?
yeah.
Township.
Where's the revenue stream coming from?
Is this TVP eligible?
Yes.
So 80% with federal dollars, county matched at 20%. And that could come out of several funds, RTA.
So you're talking about the county putting out $45,000,
Right.
$48,000.
Yep. Yep.
That's half your salary.
Yeah, 3 weeks worth. About 3 weeks worth later.
Thanks for a sacrifice.
Okay. All right, so you pretty much all move forward with this.
Great.
I didn't see anybody against it. Okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Zeke, for coming.
Is that to- discussion? Yeah.
Not related with the lineage. Okay. The beam happens to be in the center of the bridge. So we put the lineators at center of the bridge.
Oh, somebody's already taken out one of the delineators.
But it's nice and white though.
Yeah.
All right, the 2050 long-range transportation plan presentation.
All right, so it's been a while since we've talked about the 2050 LRTP. I just kind of wanted to bring this up again today because in future months, starting next month, we're going to start to bring forward new material for this committee to review and provide comments and ideas for. But I wanted to, before we get to that point, I wanted to kind of reintroduce the plan because it's been so long. So if you'll allow me for about 5-10 minutes to kind of go through this presentation, mainly it's what have we done to date, right? So it's been a long process. I wanted to just remind you all sort of what we've done. There's a little bit of new material at the end, so it's not all review, but I just kind of wanted to take some time here to go over this. So again, what is the plan? It's a long-range transportation plan for the future, not just of our system, but of the entire county. We looked at a variety of different things. This involved a long process, right? So we started this back in 2021, I believe. So it's going on three years now. And throughout that time, primarily what we were doing is going out and getting public input. We've had 2 different rounds of public input, and during each round, I think I have a later slide on this, but each round we gathered input in a variety of different ways: in person, over online. We had surveys, we had stakeholder focus groups, and that allowed us to kind of develop a plan that we feel is supported by the community. We have developed a draft plan, so you'll notice kind of in the second stage here, We've developed a draft plan, and we are right now working with the consultant on some of our comments. Once those are addressed, we're going to bring that draft plan to this committee next month. That's the plan going forward. And then ideally, kind of like P&D's 2050 comprehensive plan, we want to bring this forward for your approval sometime in 2024. That's our timeline, is to get this approved by the end of the year. We feel that that's realistic, and we don't think there's going to be too much in here that will deserve too much scrutiny or too much back and forth on, but we could be surprised. What is this? Again, it's part of the larger planning process. We looked at not just our last long-range plan, the 2040 plan, but we looked at our bike ped plan we did a couple of years ago through the Council of Mayors. We looked at our transit plan from 2018. CMAP has their 2050 plan that they just did a few years ago as well, so that's incorporated into this. All of these things, plus my interaction with P&D through their comprehensive plan, feeds into this document as well. And our document feeds into their 2050 comp plan, so it goes both ways. What's in the plan? It's an overview, regional snapshot, engagement. That's really where we spend the bulk of the time is the engagement side. What have we heard from the community? What do people in McHenry County want to see in their transportation system between now and 2050? We use that to set our vision, goals, and objectives. We're going to go over some existing conditions today. We'll look into that, future trends, the funding aspect. That's kind of pretty much something that I guess is in flux. Like, we don't know necessarily what the funding is going to look like in 2050. We can make assumptions, and we have, but that's something that we're going to have to continue monitoring in case things change going forward. And then what are some strategies to address our priorities? So that means what projects are we going to tackle in the next 25 years? It means where are we going to reprioritize our programming and budgeting on an annual basis, to take into account, for example, the residents' desires for more bike ped access. We're hearing a lot about that. How should we be reacting to the community's desires for more sidewalk and bike trails? I mentioned engagement. We actually had 3 phases of engagement from when we started till now. Here's all the things we did. We did, I think, a dozen community events that we went to. So we feel like this is pretty representative. Goals, if you don't remember what the goals are, here they are in front of you here. So the first one is Vision Zero, which means nobody should be dying on our road system. That is our goal. Eventually, by 2050, we want to bring our fatalities down to 0 in the next 25 years. Goal 2 is a complete and connected multimodal network. That's not just on the bicycle and sidewalk side, but that's on the roadway side, the freight side, the transit side as well. Efficient movement of people and goods kind of speaks for itself. Mobility, accessibility for all. So that's not just taking into account people that can get in their private automobile and drive to work, but how do people that can't drive or choose not to drive, how are they getting around our communities? And then the last one is protected environmental resources. Again, this county has a very strong environmental streak behind it, and we want to make sure that that's being represented in the plan. Some existing conditions. So I mentioned before we took a look at a variety of old plans, which helped us develop these. So just kind of going over these real quick. On the roadway system, we've had a total of 24,000 crashes between 2015 and 2019. So that's just sort of showing sort of status quo. 25,000 crashes over a 5-year period. Our goal is Vision Zero, so that's a long way to go from here to there. But it's important to know where we are today so we know how to get to where we want to go. On the freight system, obviously freight is hopefully going to be a growing piece of our economic pie going into the future, and maybe potentially the 2390 interchange corridor could be part of that future. The bicycle and pedestrian system, we took a look at mainly using the Council of Mayors bike ped plan from a couple of years ago. We looked at where the municipalities and the conservation district are prioritizing new trail connections, new regional trails. This committee has considered a variety of bike ped projects even over the last year. The one that springs to mind is the Spring Grove bike path that we talked about up in the Fox Lake Spring Grove area. So these are all things that we're kind of taking stock of now that are going to be incorporated into this plan. And then on the transit system, transit's in flux. I don't have to kind of go over the whole transit fiscal cliff again, but transit today is not going to look like transit in 2050 is not gonna look like transit today, and we all know that, but it's important we kind of address that here too. This is kind of some new information that I haven't gone into yet, but this plan also looked at our current and future needs and trends on our funding systems. So I'll remind you all, we have primarily 5 different sources of funding here at the county for transportation. We've got MFT, we have two sources of MFT, the state MFT and the county option MFT, which was just increased actually on January 1st. That increase went into effect. We've got the County Regional Transportation Authority sales tax, which is our largest single source of funding for transportation. And we've got two project funds from the property tax levy, the bridge and the matching fund. And those 5 sources primarily fund our project needs here at McHenry County DOT. We use the highway fund to fund our operations, and then we also obviously go after federal and state revenue sources to help us as well.
Scott,
yeah.
Just for everyone's reference, the county highway fund is also a property tax levy.
It is,
right?
yes.
So the bridge fund, the matching fund, and the highway fund are all property tax levy. The bridge fund and matching fund are not that significant. The highway fund is.
Correct, and we were able to keep the highway fund, if you remember, as part of the last year's budget, we were able to keep the highway fund steady. We did not increase the highway fund, even though our needs showed an increase needed because of the county option MFT increase. That's how we were able to keep the highway fund at the $9 million current levy amount during this last budget cycle. So everything is interrelated, even though these are separate funds, they fund different things. We've been able to juggle and kind of work through some of these issues here using all these funds. Here it is in graphical form. It's really hard to see, but if you can kind of take a look, this shows sort of the funding that we feel is going to be available between now and 2050 for this department. Okay, so you can see the funding that we've identified in the last 5-year program and the sources associated with that. Totals about $142 million county revenue for through our 5-year program. If you look out 5 years after that, from 28 to 34, you're looking at an additional $229 million. And then obviously it continues to grow in the midterm and the long term. And then you show a total, and again, these are thousands of dollars. So you're showing a substantial amount of money over the 25-year period. And what you see here in the middle is, sorry, these are millions of dollars, not thousands. In the middle here, we showed an expanded RTA sales tax scenario. And we felt like this was important because a lot of what was talked about at the CMAP, through the CMAP part process is a tweaking of the existing RTA sales tax to potentially tax services, which would dramatically increase our RTA sales tax collections here at the DOT. So if a services tax was implemented, we wanted to show what the impact that would be for this department and what additional projects we could do if that were to come to fruition. So again, about $1 billion over the 25-year period. You can see when that funding is coming in and what the sources are. And one thing I'll just note is, of that $1 billion, $609 million is from sales tax. So that's over half of our revenue we've identified coming from the sales tax. And you'll also notice that the MFT we show is a declining revenue source as a percentage of everything, right? So MFT is going to be either steady or slightly declining into the future as vehicles become more fuel efficient, whereas sales tax is going to continue to increase. We've shown matching and bridge to be constant over the 25-year period. So it's important to know about $1 billion to kind of program towards projects in this long-range plan. So I kind of want to tease that because next month I'm going to bring forward some of the projects, some of the strategies, some of the recommendations that we've developed, which will be utilizing that $1 billion to address our priorities. So that's kind of what you can expect next month. You're going to have much more detail. Again, I was off the last month, so this was thrown together at the last minute, but I think we wanted to introduce the topic before we have a further discussion next month. And that's all I got. Are there any questions about where we're at today or how we kind of interact with P&D's comp plan? I don't know how much planning and development has brought updates to you all on their plan, but just know, I think they're on a similar timeline for approval as we are on the land use side.
Anybody, any questions?
Cool. All right, easy.
Thank you.
Yep.
You can just stay up there unless you want to do the report on the ride share.
Yeah, Jasmine, come on up here with me for just one second. So Jasmine and I wanted to give an update real quick on you'll recall late last year, I think in September, October, we brought forward the concept of the rideshare access program, which is basically the Uber Lyft subsidy program we were gonna work with PACE on. Jasmine and I met with PACE staff on yesterday, to kind of hammer out final details about what this is gonna look like, when it's gonna get started. And I wanted to kind of bring this update to the committee just so you're all aware, you're not surprised when we bring a resolution forward, probably next month, appropriating funding for this program, and kind of laying out when this is gonna be going. So, long story short, was it March 15th, 16th? They were gonna do the ADA?
March 11th.
March 11th. So PACE is kind of committed region-wide. They're gonna be rolling out their RAP, Rideshare Access Program, for ADA paratransit customers on March 11th. So 2 weeks from now, it's gonna be operational for ADA paratransit folks. So those are a very small subset of our transit riders, those that are really have gone through the process because of a disability and getting ADA certified. Okay, so very few McHenry County residents are going to qualify under that PACE program that started in 2 weeks. PACE is, however, they've told Jasmine and I that if the county would like to start our own program modeled off of that for other customers, which you as a committee have sort of, you've sort of welcomed that idea to kind of open this up for people beyond the ADA customer base to include people that are over 60 or have a disability, right? So what we've talked about with PACE is that maybe potentially, if we can iron out some last minute details, we're targeting April 1st, we would roll out our RAP program, which is, again, it's a subsidy program. We would envision a $20 subsidy for eligible riders, so these are people over 60 or with a disability, to get a $20 Uber subsidy for their ride within McHenry County. And the details we have yet to iron out is we need to identify a list of who those people are. So PACE would like us to kind of either somehow register these people for the program. So you're going to expect probably in the next couple of weeks to see some outreach from Jasmine, maybe potentially online, where people would go in and fill out a registration form and certify that they are over 60 or have a disability, so that we know who these people are and we can provide that list to PACE. Once we've provided that list to PACE, we can then tell them, go live date is April 1st is what we're hoping. And that'll give us time to put a resolution together and bring it forward to this committee next month. So that's kind of the structure of what we're looking at. Nothing has changed since our last update back in October. The program parameters stay the same. It's just the timeline is getting closer now, so we wanted to bring that up here. Did I miss anything important that we?
No, so the program parameters that we discussed back in September were, on the user side, the rider would pay a proposed $5. The county would subsidize $20, so the rider would be responsible for anything after $25. So if their trip ends up in total being $30, they're gonna pay $10 on their end. County pays $20. Like Scott said, there are some requirements in terms of verifying if they're over 65 and if they have a disability, and that they're a McHenry County resident. Yeah, those are just kind of the big things. It would run 24/7.
And again, it's our understanding that when an eligible user gets on their Uber app, they're gonna see, call it the McHenry County RAP program as an option. So they're gonna have Uber X, Uber Black, Uber Espanol, Uber SUV, McHenry County RAP. It's gonna be one of the choices that they have to click on. And it just so happens that the McHenry County RAP will be $20 less than the Uber X is. It's the same thing, it's just the subsidy is applied to the customer before they hit, yes, I wanna schedule my ride. And what's cool is that as soon as they hit, yep, pick me up, take me where I wanna go, that that sets in motion, just like a normal, you guys have all taken Uber or Lyft, I'm sure. They'll show up pretty spontaneously, depending on where they live. It could be within a couple minutes to maybe potentially as much as a half hour if you live out in the more rural parts of the county. Or we might find some areas of the county have no access to this because there are no Uber drivers, right? So this is all market driven. We're not going to promise that everybody will have equal access to this program because we know we won't. It'll be really driven by where are the drivers today, and where are they willing to sort of pick people up. So we're excited. Yeah, first one.
So conceptually, like it, concerned about Uber or Lyft or whomever having the drivers to fill the needs that we're going to have. Again, we don't know how many participants, but you know, it's already an issue out here trying to get an Uber or Lyft. You know, and when you're saying 24/7, try and get 1 at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that ain't happening. So I'm trying to, has any discussions happened with the companies in regard to, I mean, you know, we just heard there was a, whatever, strike or slowdown, whatever you want to call it, because of their wage structure change that they did. So, you know, it seems like that's going in the wrong direction versus the right direction, especially for a county like ours.
Yeah. So the only thing that I feel comfortable promising the community about this program is after this program is implemented, you'll have a cheaper Uber ride. If you can get one, when you can get one, right? We're not making guarantees about this program will be there, you can pattern your life around it, you can get to work every day using it. I'm not guaranteeing that because again, this is all market driven by the private sector, by Uber drivers who choose to drive in McHenry County. I don't think we want, I get your concern, Mike, and I have similar concerns that I don't want to overpromise and say, get people excited about this when they might find out that at 2 a.m. there are no Uber drivers in Woodstock, right? And they're just out of luck. But there might be somebody driving around and maybe they can pick somebody up and that person will get a $20 discount on their Uber trip. So it's a weird thing where we don't want to overpromise, but we want to, at the same time, we think it's going to have benefits for those that are using it and can't use it. What I've told Jasmine is I really see this program as primarily benefiting Algonquin Township, right? That's the 100,000 people that live in the southeast have great Uber access. And I was just on my app yesterday, and at 2 p.m. there were like 12 Uber drivers in Algonquin Township. That's perfect, right? And I'm sure as more users come into the Uber system, more drivers will find it economically beneficial to start driving for Uber, right? There'll be that sort of that balancing act that'll have to play out. And right now, it is just Uber that's driving for this program. So Pace has a contract with Uber. They're looking to have a contract with Lyft and with USERV, which is another TNC. But at this point, it's just Uber. So.
Well, that's the thing I was thinking too, you know, Mike, is kind of the scale of the request, right? I mean, if you pick up the program, there's a need for it, so somebody could actually make money being an Uber driver in other parts of the county, you know, just because of the business would be there with a client as big as, you know, potentially you would be. So maybe the drivers would amass as the need amass.
That's our hope, yeah. And with enough time, you know, now that we sort of have an idea of when this is going to go live, we can start to build that excitement that maybe people might think to be an Uber driver in their spare time.
And I don't know what Mike is doing at 2 o'clock in the morning that he can't get out. But that's just me.
Is there a limitation per day or?
Yeah, so we're gonna limit it to no more than 8 rides per individual per day is what our cap is right now. Now think about that. At $5 is the fare. Every time somebody uses this, it's $5. So if hypothetically somebody took 8 rides a day, they're spending $40 of their own money, subsidized by the county then too, but we feel like the $5 fare will sort of limit how many rides people are getting on this program every day. But if they don't, 8 is the cap. They can't go more than 8, which we feel is plenty for most folks.
Do other county programs look like ours?
Well, So there's a similar program operating in DuPage County. So the DuPage has what they call DuPage Uber Access, and it's a very similar program, both for the ADA customers and the Ride DuPage non-ADA customers. It works in DuPage really well from what we've heard, but again, DuPage has a lot more Uber drivers than we do out here. So it's apples and oranges, but there are models that we're following.
When I said, does it look like it is a cost structure similar?
Similar, yeah.
Pay support around $20.
I don't know exactly, but it's similar, yeah. Every program has where the rider's responsible for a fare up front. So on the PACE ADA side, their program is a $2 fare. So if you're ADA certified in McHenry County, you get on your Uber app, it's actually a $2 fare instead of $5. But with our program, we picked $5 because again, this shouldn't be the first choice necessarily. We have MC Ride still, we've got the fixed routes, we've got Metra. There's a lot of other options. We want this to be a choice. It shouldn't be the only choice for people or the first choice necessarily. And a $5 fare, that makes it the most expensive for the rider, but it's also the most on demand and the most convenient. So we feel like you're paying for what you get with this program, with the $5 fare. And I know Ms. Bianca Diaz from the RTA had a question or something she wanted to mention. Is that okay, Jen?
Yes.
I was just wondering, with the program going to be working with Uber, does that mean any of the vehicles will be ADA accessible?
So we had a discussion on that yesterday too. The question was about,
Scott, can you repeat that question?
yeah, Matt. So the question was about ADA accessibility of Uber vehicles, and Pace. It's Pace's interpretation right now that there needs to be at least some accessible, wheelchair accessible vehicles operating on behalf of this program by Uber. Now, who pays for that and how the cost structure changes, because now, like let's say somebody calls or somebody gets on the Uber app, they need a wheelchair accessible vehicle. Does that person pay $10? Or do they still pay the $5? And if it's still the $5, if it's the same as everybody else, there's a cost borne by somebody. That cost will probably be borne by the county instead. So instead of the $20 subsidy, it might be a $40 subsidy for that wheelchair guy. We're still working about these issues, but the short answer is yes. That Pace's understanding from their legal team is that they cannot operate this program without having accessible vehicles on the road operating on behalf of the RAP program. I made the case personally to Pace that MC Ride is that arm, right? MC Ride is operating at the same time from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. as this program is. So if you need a wheelchair accessible vehicle, you get MC Ride. But it's Pace's interpretation that might not be good enough, that you need an Uber vehicle that's accessible to you. I disagree with that necessarily, but I'm not the one having to abide by the federal guidelines. Pace is. It's their program. They have the contract with Uber, not us. But yeah, that's a long answer to the short question.
So that answered your question? Okay.
So again, we'll bring something back next month. We'll look for that. It'll be an appropriation for the funding side of things. And I'm sure by next month we'll have more details on what, the start date, anything that's changed, we'll update you. It's exciting. We're getting close.
All right.
Anything else, Joe, that we forgot?
No, sir.
Okay.
So that's it for staff report.
That's it for staff report, and no need for executive session.
No need for executive session. Next meeting location here, and March 27th at 8:15. Anybody, anything else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:58.
Mr. Scow moves to adjourn, Mr. Kaminsky second, all those